Hey, welcome to Braveheart Business Growth, where we champion and equip freedom and faith-minded business leaders to fuel growth so they can make a measurable difference in their community and world. I'm Amy Alexander, the focus star of Growth Strategists.
I am David Mills. I am the elven storyteller of Growth Strategists.
Nice. New title. I like it. Well, I am Chad Alexander. I am the chaos theorist of Growth Strategists. We'll unpack what that means in an upcoming episode.
Chad, we're so glad you're back. Where would we be without you?
For sure.
I am honored to be back. Thank you guys for having me again. I'm glad the expulsion was just temporary. No, I'm just kidding.
You were on probation, but yeah.
I was on probation.
It sounds like what happens to lava when it blows out of a volcano. Expulsion. Anyway, go ahead.
Expulsion.
We should talk about what we're talking about today.
That's actually post Taco Bell, but anyways, let's move
on. No, wrong. Just wrong.
No. All right. Last week, we started our Recession-Ready series. We made a big deal about how we weren't going to be recession-proof, but we could be recession-ready. Today, we're in part 2 of that Recession-Ready series. As you find ways to buffer your business for the effects of a downturn economy, I think we'd be remiss not to include an episode about your current assets. What do you already spend money on, or what assets do you already own you could utilize to their full potential? And speaking of owned assets, guys, what is an owned asset?
I think it's something that you own.
Oh, something you own.
I will tell you what it's not.
What is it not, Chad?
It's not Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, anything you do not physically own. Yeah.
Chad's thinking like gold and silver here.
When we're talking about owned marketing assets, it's always an important thing to remember that anything you rent, you don't own. I know that's obvious, but I think in our minds, when we spend money on Google ads, when we spend money in Facebook ads, when we spend money on any social media platform, you think of it as rent to own. You're like, well, I'm renting it, but then I'm going to own it eventually. This is not the case. You only own what you own. And so if you are spending money on those things, the only way to own that asset, own that contact information, is to convert it into some kind of email list of any kind. And that becomes your owned asset. And so let's talk about email, because I think it's probably one of the most underutilized and extremely valuable owned assets you can really have in marketing and sales.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I think that a lot of people just underestimate the value of their email list, and they, sorry to say, they kind of neglect their email list. They don't really pay attention to how to manage it. But truthfully, it's super valuable if it's used well. It can be super irritating to your customers if it's used poorly. And I think, but it's a great way for you to build, maintain, and grow your business, but you got to put it to work for sure.
Yeah. Really quickly, let's play a little game. What is the worst subject line you have ever gotten in a marketing email?
The worst one for me is the one that has in brackets "from a client," and it's not from a client. Like whoever's sending there's somebody who's teaching people to send those out, and like they're telling them, hey, people will open these. Well, you know what? I opened the first one ever, and every time after, I know it's someone who I'm never going to do business with. I don't care if they're giving away free platinum, cars. I don't care what they're doing. I'm not working with them because they wrote that lie in their email subject line.
Yeah.
To me,
here's what I want to know. Who do you think you're fooling? Like, what client has ever started their email subject line in brackets with "from client"?
Now, if somebody led with that from a non-specified client, I might actually open it up. Okay, you're being snarky. I like it.
We do have clients. I have clients that put "important" in all caps on every single subject line, or "urgent" in every single subject line. They work. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's a good tactic, and I will open them up, and it really is from a client, and it really isn't urgent. But I think the from client is the funniest. Anyone else have a funny subject line?
Let me see. Let me find one real quick.
Well, another funny one that I get is, this is my last email to you. Like, I'm warning you, I'm going to stop filling your email with spam. And I'm thinking, oh, you're doing me a favor. Thanks for letting me know. Am I going to open that? No. I mean, don't you think that the test of the email, if no one opens the email, then they will still see that you sent them something. I guess that's good. They might recognize it. But if they don't open it, nothing really great is going to happen, probably, right? So open line is pretty significant, the subject line.
Real quick, here's one. I don't mind emojis in the emails, and I think 1 or 2 is fine in subject lines. But like when you have weird fonts that people can't read, like if you all of a sudden go from a standard font and then you go like papyrus, oh yeah, that will make me really not read your email.
Yes.
Just saw an obnoxious one. I'm like, oh, why would you do that? That doesn't make you stand out. That makes you look like a tool.
You're being emailed by an ancient pharaoh. They're writing to you in papyrus. It's Johnny Depp from a movie. I don't know what it is.
It is surreptitious marketing for the new Avatar film coming soon in theaters.
Let's talk about maybe some data. Like, what kind of open rates should you actually be expecting? How do you know at this moment that you're maximizing something if you're sending it?
So, like, here's the deal. Apple, a lot of people use Apple Mail. A lot of people also use Microsoft products. A few people use Yahoo. Still.
Yahoo.
And, sorry. So here's what's happened. Apple, so in line with the ad blocker deal in which people hate ads, well, people also hate spam. So Apple said, you know what? We get that. So here's what we're going to do. If you use Apple Mail, we're going to pre-open all of your mail for you. And we're going to make sure that it's not spam. I guess we're not going to read it. We don't have that many people employed to read it, but they're doing something with that data, probably
supposedly
putting it in ad filters. But they're opening it for you to keep down the riffraff in your email. But what that's doing in your email open rates, and same thing with Microsoft, by the way, it's depressing the reality of your open rates. So, probably like if you look at your analytics for your email, you'll probably see that at least 20% of the people who are opening your email are coming in from an Apple product, probably more. Add Microsoft to that. So like the floor for email open rates is 20%. If you're not getting 20% open rates, then that means that you're actually getting 0, right? Inside that 20, there's some percentage that's a mystery of how many people are actually opening it inside of there. But everything on top of 2025 is good, right? So we'll talk about Seinfeld. We get like 60, 70% open rates on our Seinfeld emails consistently. This year we've sent 30 of them. We're getting ready to send out a new one this week. It'll be our 30th. And people love that style. They open them, they read the whole thing. So that's one thing you have to look at is what is the open rate. If it's not substantially above that floor of 20-25%, then it's very close to 0. It's not good. If you're getting 10% open rates, you've got a serious email problem. At 15%, serious email problem. So,
and I would like to point out too, I think the open rates have changed in the market over the last 5 years in general, not only because of this massive Apple shift, but a Microsoft shift, but the way that, for instance, my email client works. I use something called Spark. It's a more organized way of sorting through email. The way mine works is that I got to open it to sort it. So I will open just about every single email I get. I don't delete them. Opening is part of how I delete. And so I think that's also true. More email clients are actually required in some form or another. You're opening them, even if you're not reading them. So open rates, that data point has become much more skewed and much more, like it's not really a hard number anymore.
I'm OCD, so I have to have inbox 0. So I have to open up every email I get because otherwise, if I start getting piled up lots of unread messages, I can't stand it. And
I have like 700,000 emails in my inbox, Chad.
Yeah, I know. It terrifies me.
So the other thing we have to look at is how much of the email are people reading? And so, when we're in HubSpot, our tools will show us how much of the email people are reading. How far down the page are they going? If the most people actually read the whole thing, that's what you want. Some people are going to skim. Some people are going to just look at it and leave, right? So that's another important measure. And then your click-through rate is also important. How many people click a link in the email? What link are they clicking? Surprisingly enough, a good portion of people are going to click on your logo or your LinkedIn button or one of your social links. And they're going to check you out rather than do what you want them to do. But you should have a button or links in your website, in your email, so they can click it. So those are the numbers you should be looking through, the click-through rate. And then ultimately, the other question is like, what kind of actions are people taking from your email? You're sending them, I hope, to a specific action page from your email, what we would call a landing page. Hopefully they're taking a specific action. When people go to that page, you should be getting good actions from your email interactions with people on those landing pages on your website. Should be like 8%, 10%, 15%. They should be good, high response rates.
So what Dave is saying is don't put a button to your homepage and don't put a button to your contact us page. And don't be like, call me. Here's my phone number.
Right.
Don't
so if you're going to do call me,
then
you got to make it clickable, right? Because a lot of people are kind of on their mobile device. So make a clickable phone number if you really want that many phone calls, because no one's going to call. So, but you could make it clickable. But, if you send them to your homepage, that's like saying,
schedule time.
Schedule with me. Oh, go to a scheduling link. That's good. So going to your homepage is like saying, here, read the phone book. Here, read my phone book, right? That's not very helpful.
Yeah.
And people don't like it very much. Visit my homepage. I really need visitors. It's like driving by the church. It's like driving by the church that has a big sign that says, like us on Facebook. Don't come and visit us. Don't come check us out. Don't encourage people to come on Sunday or Wednesday night, whatever. Just like us on Facebook. That's what it's like.
We want your like so bad.
We want you to give us social affirmation. We want to feel better about ourselves. Please make us feel good. We need a little pick me up today.
We want a counterfeit connection. Counterfeit connection. Counterfeit connection. Okay.
We like to have a pseudo relationship with you. A pseudo relationship. We'd like to have an artificial and shallow relationship with you, and that would make us feel especially good. I need to shut up now.
I don't know if either of you can read one, because then that would be kind of fun. But Seinfeld emails come from the idea of the Seinfeld series. Seinfeld series is a show about absolutely nothing. And yet it's well beloved, certainly in our home. And so what is a Seinfeld series email? It is essentially a series of 3 to 5 emails where you tell a story that seems to have no point, but then ends in an actual point. Often in the first few emails, you're going to do a PS. So the email's going to be like, here's my story, and here's how it somehow connects to what I do as a business. Signed, me. And then a PS. PS, we have a webinar coming up in next week. Here's how you can get access to it. The last email in the series, maybe the 4th or 5th email, will be a much harder ask. It will be like, hey, here's the webinar information. Please come to the webinar. Dave is exceptional at writing Seinfeld emails. So is Chad. And it's really the storified version of email that tend to be really long. It's the kind of strategy you would think is bizarro and would never work, but in fact is very effective. Did I talk long enough for you to bring up a Seinfeld email?
Yeah, I got one. So here's one that had about a 70% open rate. And the subject line is, why did they ditch me as a customer? Would you? That's the subject line. You people open that.
It also says from a client in there.
No, it does not.
I'm just teasing. I'm teasing.
So here it is. Here's the little story. Ever had a company just stop helping you? I'm still in shock from being ditched by my power washing company. I paid right away. I had plenty of dirt on my vinyl siding, but after they left, I never heard from them again. You might think, well, it was just a power washing company. They probably just got busy doing something else. But wait, I was a perfectly good customer who could have become a repeat or upgraded customer. Really, I have lots of work they could do for me right now. The siding is dirty again, and the windows at 15 feet above the ground need cleaning. You get the idea. But when the suds dried, that was it. It begs an important question. Why do companies simply fail to follow up on or stay connected with perfectly good repeat customers? You can imagine all the reasons. Maybe they aren't in business anymore. Perhaps they got a big contract and don't have time. It's a common problem. Companies ignore the very customers that could provide them with repeat business and help them actually build their business. Here's the message it sends. We got from you what we wanted, and we're moving on. It's an extractive kind of relationship. And then we offer an article. This article talks about the most common challenges that cause this doorbell ditch 'em experience. And it presents a solution that's pretty obvious and easy to fix. The button says read the article. Right? So this is just a fun way of introducing an article about how companies fail to follow up and create ongoing relationships with their customers. And it's really long. In this case, people read all the way through. 91% of the people read the whole article. 7.4% just skimmed it, and only 1% just glanced, right? So that's great engagement with people for them to have something to read.
Awesome.
And it's long, right?
Yeah, they're long. They always have a ton of spaces. Like it might be a sentence or two, and then you have an enter, and then you have the next sentence. So it's extremely scannable.
Yeah.
So here's some really great openers to inspire you guys to sit down and write. These work the best if you are pulling from your own life experience. You really want to avoid lying or making up a story because, especially if you're a sales team member writing these, because people will ask you about them. And you don't want to be like, well, I made it up.
Is embellishment okay?
I think embellishment to get to a point is probably, it is marketing. We don't want to lie.
Effect. We want dramatic effect. It's okay. But you know what, Amy? You got to put the emotion in it. Like people know that I'm not really torqued off about the power washing company not coming back, right? Yeah. And it's in fun, and they understand that, right? Yeah. But it does make it more interesting to read, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you don't want to be like, when I was in Africa, right? You're like never left the United States. That's not appropriate. That's lying. Okay, so here's some openers to inspire you. Ready? And there I was just minding my own business, ... When I was a kid, ... The other day, ... Just this morning. I will never forget the time a few years ago on vacation. Any other openers, guys, to inspire?
I don't know about that vacation one. It makes me think you're going to show me a slideshow with all the pictures from your vacation. It makes me nervous.
Chad wrote in our notes, that one time at band camp.
I wrote one.
That one's inappropriate.
I wrote one about how there used to be a ghost in my attic, and it was a pretty fun one. So everyone opened that because they wanted to find out about the ghost in my attic. It turned out it was actually rats in the wall, but I thought it was a ghost. Anyway.
I love it. All right, so Seinfeld emails. Those are great. Don't forget the PS. Don't forget the PS at the bottom.
And the PSS if you need it.
Yeah, you can link in the email to an article or something soft to the first few emails. Make sure you include the hard ask and a PS, and then end your series with an actual legitimate ask, not beating around the bush.
I have a story about email, and then it'll dovetail into the website.
Well, I want to talk about segmentation before we leave the topic, but go ahead, Chad.
So I had a company come out and fix our AC back in the summer, and they put us on a newsletter list, and it's actually got some good content in it. It's how to keep your home, especially around this time of year, keep your warm home during the holidays and that sort of thing. So it's got some good articles on it. Now, I will bring up part 2 here in a minute about their website, but go ahead.
So newsletters, right?
Cliffhanger?
So I ask people if they'd send emails to their customers or to prospects, and they say, oh, yes, we have an e-newsletter. When I hear the words e-newsletter, my blood begins to thicken and my eyes begin to cloud because I know what's probably coming is right. So the traditional email newsletter is 14 stories long. It's got 16 headings and it's got 14 different typefaces and lots of clip art in it from different eras. And so just FYI, we do have some clients that have very good e-newsletters. They're very clever. They're very fast to read. But the general rule is that most of these e-news formats are just full of dust and they should be blown up.
It's like, hey, unspecified person, I collected these random articles I wrote
I'm going to
that don't apply to you. You should read them.
Yes.
Well,
what
we're asking our people to do is we're saying, I don't really know who you are or what you care about.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't really care, but I'm going to give you a whole collection, once again, the phone book, of things that you can look at and figure out what you're interested in, and then you can help yourself. And so it's kind of the opposite of building good email segments in which we have a good sense about what people are interested in. And, sending people stuff that they're actually interested in is a really nice thing to do. Sending them stuff they don't care about is actually a great way to tick them off. And you just become one more person that they should ignore. So honestly, we talk with business owners all the time. Very, very few have good email segmentation. They have not been sorting people into different groups to give them stuff that they actually care about. So they're sending everything to everybody. And that means that they're ticking off most people. So email segmentation is built when you acquire the lead, first step, right? And then the second step, you build your segmentation as they interact with your assets online. So when people go to a certain kind of a blog page over and over again, or they respond to certain emails, that should be a clue for you. And you should push them into a specific group of people who care about that thing. And you will see your open rates will go way up if you're sending people things they care about. Makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
That was all for free. That advice right there, it was just totally free. No charge.
Great. So, Chad, why don't you finish your newsletter turned website story?
You sure you're ready for this? No. So
it better be good now, man.
So I know, right?
Really good.
The pressure is on. Okay, so a lot of times with websites, you need to answer buyers' questions, right? You need to put the information out there. You need to make sure that people know so they won't get sideswiped. And so with this company, there was no mention of a diagnostic fee on their website, nowhere to be found, nowhere on their Facebook. I had no idea. Tech comes out, diagnostic fee, right? And so I don't know if this is commonplace in the industry or whatnot, but it should just be spelled up out front, so nobody gets their feelings hurt. Secondly, they also didn't honor any homeowners insurance. And so this is a thing that's kind of like dying off with a lot of these brands. But they didn't mention that. They didn't say, okay, we don't honor homeowners insurance. So that's another thing. So when your customer comes in and they're asking you all these questions and you don't answer them on their website, that's not great for your business.
So what you're saying is they should have qualified you better.
Correct. That's for sure. We also had somebody come out, or we scheduled with someone else who had a brand promise, and they said, "Hey, we will see you." What did it say, Amy? Like in 2 days or something like that. We'll schedule it right away or something like that. It was like some kind of brand promise, and then they couldn't schedule us out. Like 5 days later.
It was something about
it's ridiculous.
Like some kind of 48-hour guarantee, and they couldn't say us for like a week.
Yeah.
I was like, but I picked you because of your 48-hour guarantee.
Liar.
So those are two big things. Make sure you have the right information on your website that people ask. And 2, don't make a brand promise you can't keep.
Amen, brother. So we talked about owned assets of email. Let's talk about the owned asset of your website. And yes, your website can be an asset and not just an expense. Can I get an amen?
Good insight, Amy. So
amen.
if the people that I'm going to do business with are going to spend time on my website before they talk to me, almost for sure. In fact, if they even find me because I have a website, and that becomes a way that I meet new customers, then that actually would be an asset, right? The difference between, your Facebook page or your Google My Business page is that you can control to some degree what's on there, but in the end, it is not your digital asset. It is actually owned by that company. And so your owned asset really is your website, but it's really only an asset if it is doing work. So if you had a machine in your building that was, let's say, I used to work somewhere where they had a paper folder, Maybe some of you have paper folders, right? Kind of an old school deal. You know, that machine, you put paper in it, lo and behold, you push the button, it would fold it. Imagine that. That's why it's called a paper folder. So that machine was only an asset if it was able to fold paper. When it stops folding paper and starts crumpling paper, it's no longer an asset. Now it is a boat anchor, right? Or it has to be fixed. So the same thing's true with your website. Your website's an asset if it's helping you, if it's delivering customers, if it's doing work. If it does that, and it certainly should do that, then it is an asset that you need to count on, and you should. And, you know, think about it this way. I'm sure you've heard this before. You know, if you had a salesperson that would work 24/7, would never have to eat anything, and they would always be there available to people all the time, wouldn't that be a pretty cool thing, right? Well, you do. Of course, it's your website, and hopefully it's doing some work.
Having your highly paid, highly skilled sales team waste time on unqualified leads is pretty frustrating. And so having them spend time only on qualified leads or attaining qualified leads is a much better use of their time. And so, I mean, who doesn't love an educated buyer? You know, like, we want our buyers to be educated. Sometimes they're a little more painful because they think they know a lot, but, you know, educated is the kind of buyer that we have in today's society with the World Wide Web. Everyone's an educated buyer, right?
I mean, it's what Chad shared about Amy. The website didn't qualify him properly, which frustrating to the company. It's also frustrating to the customer. So you've not only wasted your sales time, you wasted your customer time. So not only did you not get a customer, you ticked somebody off in the process. So wouldn't you rather help them to know kind of what they're getting into before they get into it? Wouldn't you want to align with them and stuff? So I think that's really important. And a lot of folks have websites that are not doing work, or some of them have websites that are like, they're not on brand anymore. They don't really present your brand. They don't have a buyer journey in them that helps a person go from kind of the starting phase of, I'm thinking about something, to how do I decide? They don't have that built into them. And so that asset, if you are thinking about how do I be ready for changing economic times, like getting that website to perform and really represent you and do its work, I think is a pretty important way for you to get ready for economic changes and be more flexible and more effective.
So think to yourself, when was the last time you got a lead from your website? Dave, how many people answer? You always ask people that question when you're talking to them for the first time. How many people answer that they've had more than 0 leads in the last 3 to 6 months on their website?
Yeah, most people will tell me they've had a few leads. The vast majority of people have had less than 10 leads a quarter. Many of them have less than 1 lead a month. That would be less. That would be 0. Or I sometimes hear from people say, I got a lot of leads, but none of them are customers. They're all terrible, right? So it's one thing or the other, but it's very, very common, even for very, kind of bigger businesses, to have very few leads converting online. Part of the issue, I think, is that they don't even know. They don't have a way of knowing what that person did online before they talk to them. And they really start only paying attention to that person when they talk to a salesperson. But the truth is, like, that most buyers, serious buyers, they've already gone 70, 80% of their decision by the time they talk to you, right? They've already they've already come up with a lot. And whoever educated them in that web process, like whoever told them how to think about this, that's who they have been shaped by. And so a lot of times you're getting buyers coming to your website that have been shaped by somebody else's thinking, and they're not thinking that clearly or that well about how to buy the thing you sell. And so that's a huge issue for you if you're not really helping them to go through that process with you. And I think we find that all the time.
We talk a lot about how you really have to start with the problem. So when we talk about a buyer journey or a decision journey, it used to be that as soon as someone knew they had a problem, they would talk to someone. They would get on the phone with a salesperson. The salesperson would start at moment 1 with them and say, well, what's your problem? Talk to me about it. Let's come to some kind of solution together. Well, we live in an information age. And so people are educating themselves long before that conversation. And where that always starts is with a problem. For us, it's like our website isn't doing anything. Our website's not converting. Our website's ugly, maybe. For you, it could be we can't manage, we're not tracking insurance. We can't, our process for tracking insurance is extremely manual. It's very people heavy. It's not streamlined. Okay. And so people are in their problem space. They're looking for someone to align on that problem and then teach them how to buy a solution. And your website should be that journey they take from understanding and aligning on a problem to understanding the potential solution and how to buy that potential solution from you. It's a very different way of building a website or writing a website. And so one of the first things you can do, we always tell people, sit down with your sales team and talk about what problems are people having? How can I align on problems? And just start writing articles about it. Like, you don't even have to redesign your website today. You could literally start writing articles, social posts, any kind of content around these problems and begin aligning on problems. Write Seinfeld emails about problems. That would be a good thing to do. But you have to align on problems. And in the end, in order for your website to be that journey, you really are going to have to rewrite a lot of the content and make sure that people are taking that journey with you and that you are answering their question about, do you have the right solution and how do you buy that solution?
And it comes down to the fact that, people are going to educate themselves somewhere. Most people do not want to feel dumb about their purchase. They don't want to feel uninformed. They also don't want to be 100% reliant upon a salesperson because, the impression of salespeople, unfortunately, is that maybe they aren't telling you the whole story, So people really do want to they want to feel smart. And so your website should help them to get smart about the thing you sell and help them really get ready to make a good decision and build trust with them.
If you think you hate it now, wait until you drive it. No, National Lampoon's Vacation there.
I love it.
So there's definitely a paradigm shift that has to happen here, right? In the minds of CEOs and managers, that sort of thing. I think a lot of people come to this kind of daunting task of redesigning their website, and they're like, well, it's not getting me a lot of leads. Why should I redesign it, right? Well, the other option is that you continue to bombard people with Google Ads, which you are continuously losing a lot of ground on. And think about it, even if you rotate out your Google Ads and you make sure that the content's fresh and all this stuff, and you're targeting your market continuously, these people, they're continuously hitting with these ads all the time. Ad fatigue will set in, even if you rotate your content. And so if you don't have them going to a website, that's one thing if you have the ads going to a nicely designed website where they can do their own digging and stuff. But if you don't have that website and infrastructure in place, then it's worthless. You're renting out space for something that's not existent.
Yeah. Well, this is why most ad companies are always going to also try and write the landing pages to go with the ads because they know that a lot of websites can't hack it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's important that your website has the capability to spin up landing pages. There's technology that has to go underneath that website to make it fast, make it effective, not only for search engine optimization, but also for, all the different things you're selling, like put people on a page that really helps them with what they're working on. And you have, as a marketer, you don't want to wait for a developer every time you want to create a landing page. So I think the other issue with owned assets is like that folding machine again, right? There's only one repairman that we can call and he lives in Michigan. It's going to take forever to get the thing fixed. So you've got to have a website that is easy to iterate and is easy for you to update and easy for you to add things to. And your marketers should be able to do that. They shouldn't have to wait on a developer every time they want a new page. That's silly. So I think that's an important part of the asset. It's when you buy a new car, you look at the maintenance, record. How well is it standing up in the world of maintenance? Is it requiring a lot of maintenance or is it pretty maintenance free? The same thing's true with a website. Can it be updated and maintained easily? Or are you taking on kind of this boat anchor of spaghetti code that you're going to have to constantly kind of, you're doing CPR in the thing please stay alive. Please keep working, add some more code. Give me a full line drip of code. You don't want that, right? You want something that's going to be healthy and easy to update.
I'm writing that down. Boat anchor of
spaghetti code. Maybe we should patent that. The boat anchor of spaghetti code.
I think so. That's our trademark. Boat anchor. Not our trademark, but
It's two metaphors in one, which is terrible, right? Boat anchor, spaghetti code. Maybe I could add a third. Boat anchor, spaghetti code with cheese sauce. That's a third metaphor, kind of.
Can we please design an icon that's an anchor that's got spaghetti all over it and it's code? Can we please do that?
You can, Chad, but no one's going to want to see it because it's going to be scary.
I want to share my example of aligning on this problem, this journey, okay?
You want to talk about something serious now?
Yeah, I do. I think it's hard when you sit in your own solution as a company to imagine that someone doesn't understand why your solution works or to understand why they can't map themselves from problem to solution because it seems so obvious to you. But we are all using a very specific type of mic that's meant for podcasts, okay? When I was starting my journey in trying to figure out how to do podcasting and what kind of equipment we needed, I landed on a podcast on how to start a podcast. It was from a brand called Buzzsprout. Now, in my mind, I knew that I was going to have to get some kind of service to disseminate our podcast across all the possible podcast channels and apps. But that wasn't really top of mind for me. What was top of mind for me was like, what do I need to get started and what kind of mic do I need? Buzzsprout understood that. They answered that question in some articles and a series of podcasts. And they gave all the details I needed about my problem. They aligned on my problem, which was starting a podcast. In that process, I figured out that Buzzsprout was a really inexpensive tool for uploading a single episode and all the descriptions and then connecting it to Apple and Spotify and Google and all of the different kinds of podcast, right, disseminators. But I would never have started my journey by searching for Buzzsprout. That wasn't where I was at. I wasn't ready to purchase Buzzsprout. Where I was at was, how do I even record this thing and what's the right equipment? And they understood that. And so you really have to get in the head in that journey of your buyer because I didn't even know Buzzsprout was a solution I needed. But I did know I had a problem.
So like your brand loyalties or brand recognition's right here and you're kind of in the center of that, right? Well, people should know who Buzzsprout is, right? But they are so removed. They're over this way with the problem that they're thinking, oh, well, I have to solve a problem and I have no idea where to start on this. And that's where a lot of good content comes from is like, how do you begin unpeeling this onion that is your problem? And so the more content you write around that, the more videos, anything how to, the problems with, the big 5 kind of articles around that is where people are searching. They're not saying, oh, Buzzsprout versus this platform versus this platform, unless they're going to decide very soon.
I think I'd love to pull the thread on content because it's really one of the other important owned assets you have to talk about. If we're talking about how to not rent things, we want to own things. A lot of people spend a lot of money on Google Ads, which is just rented audience, right? It's just rented traffic unless you can convert them. And so a really important, unfortunately, longer term strategy for owning your traffic is to write content. You have to build a library of helpful, problem-focused, or hard question-answering content. So what I mean by that is either you're going to talk about the problem to align, or you're going to give them really good details, like how much does something like this cost? Well, let me tell you why it costs this much in the industry, what makes it more expensive, what makes it less expensive, and how much we charge for it. So you want to give really good, hard-hitting question answers. But either way, building and spending spending revenue or spending investing in content library building is how you can own traffic over time. And that feels important.
It is important. I mean, I do think that we're not going to have a lot of time probably to go very deep in this topic today, but I do think that like this is one of the major pain points for people who realize that this is the way to have earned traffic is by having great content. And I think this is a major pain point because this is a challenge to do, to have good quality content that comes out. Junky content that you have written by someone that's offshore, that has English as their 13th language, is not going to create the kind of content that you want. And frankly, the content being created by AI engines is not going to create that content either. And so there's a real challenge here to create this content and keep it going. We know how much work it is. We do it for clients. We do it for ourselves. And anyone who's working on this knows how much work it is too. So, so I would say that like the value of your content is definitely an asset if you have valuable content. If you have slipshod content, it might not be an asset at all. It might just be filler, one of the pages that no one on the internet ever visits. And once again, the measurement of the value of this content asset is how many people are visiting your website to look at it. That's really the question. If no one's visiting it, then it's either not being presented properly for search engine optimization purposes, or it's not very, very valuable, or you haven't put in the work that's required to create enough activity around it. And there's a lot of work that goes into that stuff. So you have to create the content and you have to promote the content to make it work.
I also think that the value of your content is directly related to the subject matter expert that was consulted in the creation of the content.
Yeah.
And one thing to think about, if you have sales team members sitting around waiting for phone calls, open up a Google Doc and just get them to write, because you're already paying people that have the information needed to answer the question. They may not be very good writers and they may not be very good communicators. So it's not some kind of ultimate solution, but without question, it would at least get you started on understanding what content could be written. You might even find like a unicorn in the midst of your sales team members, someone who happens to be a really good writer. But the sales team and really anyone in leadership, those are the people whose knowledge needs to be tapped into to provide very valuable content. And we actually have we have something we call the Big Five. We didn't create it, but I'll put a link in the show notes to who did create the Big Five, which is just like 5 categories of articles. And it's a good way to start and kind of strategize around what that content needs to be.
Awesome. I think that, the content really unlocks and ties back into the value of the website because it gets people there. And it also ties back into what you have to send out in your email of value, because part of what has to happen is we have to just be educating and informing people all the time. And that really it's anchored by having good quality content on your website. That's what you use to send that to.
Yep. So we send you forth to evaluate your email, your website, and your content owned assets to maximize them to the best of your ability. And something else really cheesy that I can say.
I don't have anything to add to cheesy, but I think from a recession preparedness or response approach, having things that work that you own is like a really smart thing. That's a good thing to invest in and tune it up so that it works well. You don't want that. You don't want to have a broken down website or a terrible email, because it just doesn't help you when you need to make adjustments or make changes. You've got to have stuff that's actually high performing, and you can have it. It's not a pipe dream. It's like you really can have that for your business, and it can be something you actually, like accountants will probably put it on the asset line because it's really valuable.
I have 2 more thoughts on content real quick. So content, even if it's done properly, it will take you a long time to see good, sustainable growth from it. It just will. Google's algorithm kicks in about 6 weeks after you publish an article, and it just takes a while for people to start kind of getting into it and reviewing it. That being said, look at your existing content. Look at older stuff, and you might have something from like 2017 or back where Google's already kind of archived it. Look at it, see if people are consuming it and interacting with it. See if you can SEO it to where it's even better. We've done this in the past for clients where we've looked at like their articles that were doing pretty well, but nothing major. We optimized it, and then after that, it was like gangbusters. And so, but it had to have that initial time for it to grow in order to be successful.
Yeah,
it's like it's like when you get some really good quality meat. You got to let it hang for a while and age before you want to cut it up and barbecue it. So
and put spaghetti coat on it.
No, that'd be a wrong metaphor.
I would just like to point out, since we are here to champion and equip freedom and faith-minded business leaders, I do think we've talked before about investing and putting your money in places that are God-honoring, in places that further the kingdom of God, in places that are, protecting your children's future in America, things like that. And so big tech is not good. It is, in fact, bad. I don't think anyone would argue that Facebook, Instagram, Google are somehow like beacons of light in a dark world. And if part of your long-term strategy is to continue to put ad money into those places, it is not only figuratively, but it is literally fueling something that is not of God. And so that's another thing to think about, as you're thinking about being recession ready and you're thinking about the future of your own company. If you're challenged like we are to make changes, to re-envision where your money could go and how you could make a difference, one of those places is to invest differently, to no longer give money to Google every single month so that they can rent you a list, rent you traffic. It's no longer to put money on Facebook to, again, give you an audience that's rented that you don't even own and tapping into nasty big data that is ruining our culture. So I certainly feel challenged in that way, and that's something I felt worth mentioning.
Yeah, and the things we've suggested here are ways that you are building your own assets that are not reliant upon those ad networks, right? Which are, they are loaded, the dice are loaded there, and the profit from those goes to places that is, I think, very scary where it goes.
Not to mention, the rules can change at any moment.
That's for sure.
And frankly, Google's algorithm changes at any moment. And over the many years we have spent building content, and the many, many dozens, maybe hundreds by now of businesses we have recommended build content libraries, one piece of advice has reigned true and more effective as Google's algorithm has gotten better, which is good content is good content. Hacking it with keywords and having lots of quantity, those things have not stood the test of time in Google's algorithm, but good, solid content only goes higher and higher in traffic over the years and as the algorithm gets better. And so that's kind of, in my mind, it's kind of like you can bank on that. As Google gets better at doing its own job, if you're just building great content, you can trust that that's just going to get you more traffic over the years. So I think that feels like a good strategy.
Speaking of good content, I wanted to share this book that I just put out, and you can see it's called What You Absolutely Positively Have to Know Before You Build Your Next Website. And it's got this funny band across it. This is a proof copy because it's so hot off the press that this is just the first one off the press. It's a proof copy, but it's available on Amazon. We'll put the link in the show notes. It's written for the purpose of helping you to know how to think about your website and how to make it work better. how to ask the right questions when you're getting someone to help you with it. So it's a good read. It's 120 pages, and it probably help you to think more clearly about what you should expect from your website. So I'd recommend it. Of course, I wrote it. So
also, we just really want you guys hiring great companies to do your websites. There's a lot to share, a lot to go around. And so that may or may not be us. That's not the intention. But we really do want you to go build a great website with someone. And this website will help you figure out who that is. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We hope this was valuable. Hopefully we didn't get too preachy about our owned asset opinions. But we look forward to seeing you next week in our part 3.